There's a kind of quiet that only shows up in a house when something's about to break. Not thunderstorm quiet. Not the electric hush before a sky splits open. No, this was something else. The kind of silence that settles into your living room on a Tuesday night while you're stirring soup and pretending you don't feel the air getting heavier with every passing minute. I still remember the spoon. It was stainless steel, curved just right, and the third one in the drawer, the one she always used when she wasn't too tired to eat. That night, I set the table for 3. 2 plates of chicken tortilla soup, steam curling up in lazy spirals, and a third plate with a folded napkin and a spoon she wouldn't use. I didn't know it yet, but that plate would become something of a ghost in my life. She said she'd be late. Work stuff. You don't have to wait for me, she texted, which was funny, because I always did. It's what you do when you love someone, you wait. Even if the waiting turns into a way of life. Our dog, Bandit, laid on the floor next to my chair, ears twitching. He always knew more than I did. And he didn't like her new perfume. I should have paid more attention to that. But hindsight is like that drunk friend at a party who suddenly becomes a genius. Too loud, too late, and too right. I lit a candle. Not for romance. Just for atmosphere. The way you might when you're trying to convince yourself the house still feels warm. Homey. Like it used to. Around 8:47 p.m., I heard the garage door. She came in like she always did. Keys first, shoes off at the door, sigh loud enough to hear, but not quite loud enough to be about me. I'm exhausted, she said, already halfway up the stairs. Don't wait up. I just need to be alone tonight. Alone. There it was again. That word had become her favorite lately. Like we were roommates with a shared calendar. Not lovers, not teammates. Just 2 people managing a mutual mortgage and different kinds of loneliness. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Because nodding is what you do when words won't land right anyway. She didn't eat. I cleared her plate, untouched. Scraped the soup down the drain like it was nothing. Like she was nothing. But I still washed her spoon by hand, like a fool. Dried it. Placed it back where it belonged. 3rd from the left. 3rd spoon. 3rd plate. And me, in 3rd place. That was the last night the house felt like it had 4 walls and a roof. After that, the weather moved inside. And brother, the storm was coming. Wednesday mornings were predictable in our house. She liked her coffee with 1 sugar, no cream. I made it that way, even when she left it on the counter and walked out the door without touching it. She used to kiss me on the cheek before work. Now she kissed the air, somewhere near my shoulder. If I leaned in, I looked desperate. If I didn't, I looked cold. I started to wonder if she noticed either way. She wore a black blazer that morning. New. I didn't ask about it. She'd stopped telling me when she bought things, and I'd stopped pretending not to notice the charges on our joint account. A new blazer. A higher hemline. Perfume that wasn't hers 6 months ago. Long day. I asked. Just meetings, she said. Eyes on her phone. Smile on her screen. I glanced down and saw the name, Jared C. I didn't know a Jared. I also didn't ask. Because part of me already knew. She left before I finished my toast. No, have a good day. No, love you. Just the click of the door locking behind her. Like she was sealing something off. I looked at Bandit. He tilted his head like even he was thinking, you sure this woman still lives here? I went to work. Emails, numbers, polite laughter. Every conversation felt like it was happening underwater. I nodded at the right times, smiled just enough. But every now and then, that name, Jared, floated back up like a bloated secret. By the time I got home, her car was in the driveway. That used to be a relief. Now it felt like a trick. I walked in. The house was clean. A little too clean. And the air smelled like citrus and something unfamiliar. Cologne, maybe. But not mine. She came down the stairs, hair tied up, hoodie on, no makeup. I'm heading out, she said, not looking at me. Didn't you just get home? Yeah, she shrugged. I just need some time. To think. And there it was again. That word. Time. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to herself. Everything was about time now. And somehow, I was always the one wasting it. She left before I could respond. I walked into the kitchen. 3 plates were in the dishwasher. I only remembered using 2. I opened the trash. 2 empty beer bottles, not mine. The couch pillow was indented in a way I hadn't left it. Bandit sat by the window, watching the street, waiting for her to come back. I didn't follow. I didn't call. I just reached for the dishes in the sink. And this time, I only washed 1 spoon. Friday night, I made her favorite, pesto pasta with roasted tomatoes and garlic bread that could make a grown man weep. She hadn't cooked in weeks, so I figured maybe, just maybe, this would reach her. Maybe food still meant something. Maybe we still meant something. I even set the table, candles, napkins folded into triangles, the whole domestic illusion. 3 plates. Out of habit, I reached for that third one again. And paused. Not because someone was joining us, but because someone already had. She texted around 6. I'm tired. I need to be alone tonight. 7 words. That was it. No sorry. No rain check. Just the digital version of a shrug. I stood there holding a salad tongue in one hand and a flicker of denial in the other. I wasn't going to drive around like a stalker. I wasn't going to blow up her phone. I was just going to pick up dessert from that little bakery on Franklin, because if I sat there in that quiet house any longer, I'd start screaming into the floorboards. And that's when it happened. I parked across the street from Vincenti's, that little Italian spot with string lights and overpriced wine. The kind of place couples go to sit close and laugh softly over tiny plates of ravioli. I was halfway to the bakery when I saw them. Her hair was the first thing I recognized. Pulled back, just the way she wears it when she's trying. The dress, I hadn't seen that dress in over a year. Said it didn't fit right anymore. Funny how it fit just fine now. And him? I didn't know his name, but I knew the type. The kind who leans in too close across the table, who smiles like he's the prize. He was holding her hand, not on top, but underneath, like it had been there for a while. Her head tilted, laughing, like she used to with me. And I stood there, on the sidewalk, a takeout bag in one hand, betrayal in the other. I didn't go in. I didn't tap the glass. I didn't flip the table. I went home, quietly. When I walked into the house, it was too clean again, too quiet. I took the third plate from the table, the one I'd set for her out of routine, out of habit, out of stupid, blind hope. I washed it, dried it, and then, without a word, I walked over to the cabinet and put it away. I never took it out again. After that night, something in me calcified. Not broke, not snapped, just hardened, like wet cement that had finally set. She came home around 11:42 p.m. I was sitting on the couch, still in my work shirt, TV on, volume low, not watching it, just letting it talk so I wouldn't have to. The front door creaked open like it knew better than to announce her. She stepped in, heels in one hand, eyes already avoiding mine. Didn't want to wake you, she mumbled. You didn't, I replied, as never leaving the screen. She stood there, waiting for me to ask. Where were you? Who was he? Why? But I didn't. Because I wasn't collecting reasons anymore. I was collecting receipts. She walked upstairs. I waited 30 seconds. Then I followed, quiet as a ghost with good posture. Her purse was on the bed, open. And while she was in the bathroom humming whatever lie helped her sleep at night, I reached in and pulled out her phone. No password. She trusted me. That's the funny part. After months of gaslighting and disappearing acts, she still thought I wouldn't look. That I was the kind of fool who believed girls' night meant anything but perfume and wine-stained secrets. I scrolled. Messages from someone named C. I'll give you one guess what C stands for. It wasn't cousin. I opened the thread. And there it was, like someone had ripped the curtain off the stage and shown me the whole play. You looked so good tonight. I couldn't stop thinking about that thing you said. He doesn't suspect a thing. He's so checked out it's almost sad. I want to wake up next to you. Not him. The phone buzzed in my hand. A new message from C. Next weekend. Same hotel? I'll bring the wine. You bring that dress. I stared at that screen for a long time. Then I took a screenshot, emailed it to myself, and slid the phone back into her purse like I was returning a borrowed pin. She never knew. The next few days were silent, not out of tension, but calculation. For me, at least. I started paying attention. Not emotionally, surgically. Where she went. What she wore. How her voice changed when she was texting. Who liked her Instagram photos. I started building a case like a detective on a slow boil. She wasn't careful anymore. That's the thing about cheaters. They get bold when they think you're blind. And I'd made it real easy to look blind. Stoic. Dull. Predictable. But I was none of those things. Not anymore. I was patient. One night she said, I think we need space. I'm going to my sister's this weekend. I nodded. Good idea. She blinked. Caught off guard. She expected a fight, not permission. Really? She said. Yeah. I think we both need clarity. She smiled, not warm, but relieved. Like a liar getting away with something again. By Friday, she packed a bag. I helped carry it to her car. She hugged me with one arm. The kind of hug you give a stranger who once helped you change a tire. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I walked back inside and opened my laptop. Email. Print. Hotel confirmation. Screenshots. Messages. Maps. By midnight, I had a file thick enough to make a lawyer purr. I wasn't planning a divorce. Not yet. That would be too merciful. No, I was planning understanding. My own. Hers would come later. Saturday, I went to the hotel. Not to confront them. That would be childish. I wasn't here for a Jerry Springer moment in the hallway. I was here to observe. Document. Watch the magician before I pulled the rabbit out of her lies. Room 414. I sat in the bar with a scotch and a view of the elevator. Around 6:45 p.m., they walked in. Him first, tall, well-groomed, that overconfident look of a man who's never been punched in the mouth for something he deserved. Then her. Same dress. Same smirk. Same lie. They didn't see me. They never saw me. I took a few photos, nothing too invasive. Just enough to remind myself this was real. That I wasn't imagining it. That the person I built a life with had traded it in for hotel sheets and convenience. And then I left. Quiet. Efficient. Because my kind of revenge doesn't happen in public. It doesn't shout. It doesn't throw drinks or break dishes. It waits. Back home, I cleaned the kitchen. Not because I cared, but because I wanted the counters to be spotless when it was time. Around 11:30 p.m. Sunday, she came back. Hair messy. Makeup faded. Skin glowing in a way it hadn't around me in months. I missed you, she said. She never was a good liar. I kissed her on the forehead. Not because I forgave her, but because I wanted to remember what she felt like before she became a ghost. You hungry? I asked. She shook her head. I ate already. Of course she did. I took one last look at the third plate in the cabinet. Still clean. Still untouched. And it would stay that way. Because the next part? That's where the knife goes in. But not into flesh. Into comfort. Into reputation. Into the place it hurts the most. Her life. And that's coming next. Monday morning. She made coffee. For herself. Didn't ask if I wanted any. Just stirred her oat milk in with that smug little swirl she'd picked up from watching too many lifestyle reels. She wore that robe I bought her last Christmas, the one she said was too soft to wear, yet now lived on her shoulders like a badge of her comfort in this farce. I might be late tonight, she said casually, scrolling her phone. Budget review at work. I nodded. Took a sip of my own coffee, one I'd made 10 minutes earlier. From beans she didn't know I bought. From a brand she'd never touched because it didn't come in a recyclable bag. She was lying again. And I was smiling. Because I already knew where she'd be tonight. Room 612. The other hotel this time. Less romantic, more convenient. She booked it from her work laptop, the same one she thought I couldn't access. Turns out, when you're married, tech boundaries blur. Especially when you pay for the router and know how to read a MAC address. I kissed her forehead on the way out. She flinched. Not because I scared her, but because she'd forgotten I still could. At work, I wasn't distracted. I was focused. People think heartbreak makes you sloppy. For some, sure. For others, the ones like me, it makes you surgical. I started making phone calls. Quiet ones. Accountants. Old contacts. Divorce attorney I met at a wedding once. She used to joke I was the most boring loyal man in the room. I called her first. She didn't laugh when I told her what was happening. I'm not here to burn the house down, I told her. I just want to make sure when she lights the match, the wind's in my favor. She said she liked that. Said it meant I was thinking like a man with a plan. And I was. That afternoon, I left work early. Not suspiciously early, just man who values his mental health early. I went to the bank. Shifted funds. Opened an account she didn't know about. The banker asked if I'd like to name a beneficiary. Not yet, I said with a grin. Still deciding who I trust. She laughed. I didn't. I went home and made dinner. For one. A quiet meal, just like all the others lately. Steak, medium rare, because I missed flavor. At 7:03 p.m., she texted. Running late. Don't wait up. I didn't reply. I just glanced at the manila folder beside my plate. The one labeled, Exit Plan. Inside. Printed hotel confirmations. Screenshots of texts and emails. Photos. A spreadsheet of our joint assets. And a notarized copy of the post-nup agreement I'd quietly drafted 3 years ago when her old flame had resurfaced for a week and she started going on walks to think. She never signed it, but I did. And I had witnesses. Turns out, That can be very useful. At 8:42 p.m., I drove by the hotel. Not to cause a scene, just to confirm. There she was. Same coat. Same man. This time she touched his face. Not the way you touch someone you're seeing. The way you touch someone you've already chosen. I parked down the street. Took one last look at the two of them through the windshield. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just decided. By Wednesday, I'd filed the paperwork. Quietly. Strategically. See, the thing about divorce is people always focus on who's leaving. They don't talk enough about how. I made sure every move was clocked. Bank account split. Keys replaced. Locks changed. I even got the security system reset. At work, I told HR I'd need a couple of days to take care of family matters. They nodded, sympathetic. My boss patted me on the shoulder and said, "Hope everything's okay." "We'll be soon," I said. And I meant it. That Friday, she came home around 9:15 p.m. hair tousled. Eyes bright. Like life was finally coming back to her face, just not from anything I was doing. She walked into the kitchen and paused. I was at the table. Laptop open. A glass of bourbon sitting next to a neat little stack of paper. "What's all this?" she asked, eyeing it like it might bite. I looked up. Clarity. She furrowed her brow. I pushed the papers across the table. Divorce petition. Pre-drafted asset split. Your clothes are already packed. She blinked. The smirk vanished. Finally. Wait. What? Are you serious? I stood. I saw the texts. The hotel. I know about C. The late nights. The fake meetings. The perfume that isn't mine and the wine receipts from places I've never been. She reached for a chair like her legs suddenly needed backup. This isn't what you think," she stammered. "Oh, good," I said, pulling out my phone. Because I'd hate to think I'd been living with a liar. I played a voicemail. It was her voice, breathless, excited. "I can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel alive again, like I'm 20, like I matter." Her eyes filled with something. Could have been regret. Could have been performance. I didn't care. "You went looking for excitement," I said quietly. "Well, congratulations. You found an ending." That night, she didn't beg. She didn't cry. She packed. Slower than I'd have liked, but with no fight. She left wearing the same coat she wore in those hotel photos. I almost thanked her for the symmetry. When the door shut behind her, I sat down. One plate. One drink. Silence. But not the painful kind. The freeing kind. After she left, I didn't sleep. Not because I was grieving. That part had been processed, buried, and burned. I stayed up because I was organizing. Like an accountant with a grudge. Emails. Bank records. Camera footage. Everything cataloged. She hadn't just cheated on me. She built a new life using the bones of ours. Used my money to buy him gifts. Took time off from our marriage to fund her vacation in someone else's arms. I ran the math. A conservative estimate of what she'd taken emotionally, financially, materially, over the last 9 months? $14,380. It wasn't the amount that got me. It was the intent. She wasn't escaping me. She was replacing me, using my own wallet. And so, I got to work. The lawyer called the next morning. "We serve him too," she said. "Excuse me?" I asked. "The man she's seeing, he's in the documentation. Financial entanglement. He gets served." I paused, then smiled. "Do it." He got his copy on a Tuesday morning, right before his team meeting. Served right in the parking lot. Envelope handed with a smile. Civil summons inside. He read it. Twice. See, people like him? They don't expect consequences. They expect secrets. Gratitude. Backdoor exits. But I was done with polite. He wasn't just sleeping with her. He was aiding and abetting theft, marital fraud, cohabitation lies, possible identity misuse. Not criminal, no. But civil? Civil can bleed a man slow. He called her 5 times that day. She didn't answer. She was too busy trying to talk her way back into the lease on her sister's couch. I didn't answer when she tried calling me either. Because by then, I had learned a beautiful truth. Some fires don't need gasoline. They just need silence. 3 weeks later, she showed up at my door. No makeup. Hair tied back. Wearing the hoodie I left behind in the hallway closet, like she thought nostalgia might be a ticket back to something. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice low. I stepped aside. She sat at the table, looked at the single plate, the single fork, the folded napkin where hers used to be. "You look good," she said. "I am good," I replied. She flinched, but kept going. I made mistakes. You made a life, I corrected. She sighed. I thought he'd love me better. I thought it would feel different. That's what people say after a bad haircut, I said. Not after nuking a marriage. She started to cry soft, restrained. I miss us. No, you miss the safety. You miss being forgiven before you apologize. Silence stretched across the table. The room didn't even breathe. Then I said it. You need closure. I need distance. Let's honor both. I stood, walked her to the door. No hug. No drama. And when she stepped off my porch, she looked back one last time. But I had already closed the door. I didn't key his car. Didn't post her texts. Didn't show up at their jobs or scream on social media. What I did was simple. I gathered all the photos, all the proof, the screenshots, the texts, the hotel receipts, and put them in a clean PDF. Then I forwarded it to his wife. Yes, he had one. Her name was Elise. They had a baby, a mortgage, a dog named Scout. Turns out, her husband wasn't just a homewrecker. He was a serial liar, a man with 2 families and a gym membership he barely used. Elise and I had a 10-minute call. She cried. I didn't. But before she hung up, she said something I'll never forget. You're not the fool. They are. You walked away with your spine intact. He's going to walk away with half. She filed that week. He lost both homes. That was justice. No fists. Just facts. And a reckoning no apology could touch. 6 months later, I hosted a dinner. Friends. Real ones. People who stayed when the lies blew through like a hurricane and stripped the walls bare. They brought wine. Laughed too loud. Told stories that mattered. We gathered around the same table. I set 6 plates. Glasses clinked. Food passed hands. Joy filled the air like a perfume I hadn't smelled in a long time. After everyone left, I cleaned the kitchen. Stacked the dishes. Dried the silverware. Then I stood there. Alone. Looking at the cabinet. And I opened it. Inside, on the top shelf, untouched since that night she said she was tired, sat the 3rd plate. Clean. White. Silent. I picked it up. And I walked it outside. I didn't throw it. Didn't break it. I just set it gently in the garbage can, closed the lid, and walked away. That plate belonged to someone who never came back. And I never set a table for a ghost again.